You so much for speaking to me. This is a huge season, and starting off with the finale was even huger. We have a kidnapping that's very personal this time, and we have a serial killer. So I really want to know at this moment, where would you say Roswin's headset? What is his mindset right
Yeah, no, it's Rizwan, but no worries at all. Don't worry, don't worry. Totally fine. Yeah, I think it's he's in a different place. He's in a really different place than season one. I think the first day of season one is his first day on the job, and that comes with, all the nerves of like, oh my gosh, it's my first day. Everyone else knows each other. I don't know anyone. Like that can be kind of scary. But I think by season two, he's found his stride a bit, and he's now the head RA, and he's got a lot of responsibility. So I think it's been so fun. To see that growth and that arc over the two seasons. And yeah, he's different this season. I think that he's in a different spot. And he's finding his confidence and he's coming into his skin a little bit more. And you can see that even from like the clothes he wears and how he carries himself. You can see that evolution. And as an actor, that's been so much fun to play. Those sort of differences over the course of the two seasons.
now? So then I want to also talk about everything that he's learned from season one, because he is, just graduated, came out of school, and he's
Yeah.
basically learning. Can you say whether or not the lessons that he has learned from season one will apply to this season?
Absolutely. I think that when you're involved with such high stake crimes, that builds you as a person. I mean, when you're held hostage by a bomber, that builds character, you could say. And so I think that with a lot of these stories, I've been able to see, wow, Rizwan is actually pretty brave. He actually has a good handle on things in those really intense situations. And so those things have been very telling to me about Rizwan's character and maybe reassuring to Rizwan himself that he's in the right place. He's in the right spot. I think all those anxieties and worries he has in the first season have been at least partially soothed by just being able to do it. And so I think that's a new layer to his character that we're seeing in the second season.
Rizwan and Phoebe were very close, and now she's no longer there. Can you talk about kind of recalibrating,
Mhm.
because she's no longer there? You guys were very close in building that friendship. So, one, does it feel like there's a piece or half missing from Rizwan? And how does he feel like he stabilizes?
Yeah, I think especially at first, it's really hard for him. And there's a little period of time where there's no other RA besides Rizwan. So his first big responsibility is to find the second RA. And I think that's a really daunting task for him to have to find, Phoebe's replacement. And I think something that viewers can see in the beginning of the second season is how kind of stressful it is for Rizwan to have to hold it down by himself. That's really hard. And he's yeah steps up to the challenge and he brings in this guy Simon Wilton, and he's hoping that he's a good replacement, but he's not sure at first. So we'll get to see over the rest of the second season if Rizwan made a good choice or not.
Yeah, I was slightly I was like worried a little bit, because I was wondering if he was trying to find a replacement or someone who was just like him.
Hmm.
Was there a difference, do you feel, within that script?
Yeah, I don't think he was trying to find someone exactly like her. I actually think that he was looking for a new perspective and angle to bring into WIFA, the team there. And one thing that Simon brings to the table that Rizwan and Phoebe necessarily didn't is Simon is an expert in psychobiology. And so Rizwan thinks that that could be a cool new, spin and a useful tool for, crime scenes, psychobiology. It can be a very useful skill to have for the team. And so, yeah, I would say that Simon is very, very different than Phoebe. And we'll have to see, if it's a good fit.
I was wondering, can we talk serial killers? Because now it's really personal and there are a
Mm.
lot of people's lives. So that's a lot heavy load to also deal with. How is he with that? And it affects the team. And we know that each person, someone he doesn't, if they continue to not find him, then another person is going to die.
Yeah, I think it's, would deal with some really heavy, crime and murders and serial killers. This is not stuff that anyone can engage with. You know, it's hard, it's triggering, even for the bravest people. I think one thing I've learned about Rizwan over playing him the last two seasons is that he's actually pretty good in those situations. I mean, he gets held hostage in episode 10 of season one, and he can hold it together during those moments. So I think it's cool to see that, you know, maybe that's one of Rizwan's strengths is that he's brave and that he's good in those high intense situations, which is a trait that he's going to need if he's going to be working with Alec on these crimes. And I think he's learning from Alec, and I think maybe he's realizing himself that maybe he's actually better at this than maybe he thought he was after the first season. And I think that, you know, fuels the confidence that he has going into season two.
Do you feel that he still has any weaknesses that he should look out for?
Yeah, I mean, I think he still struggles with imposter syndrome. I personally believe that imposter syndrome is something everyone deals with. That's just my personal belief. But I do think that, you know, he doubts himself sometimes. He's not sure of himself all the time. But I think as time progresses, he gets a little bit more grounded and settles in a little bit more. But even with that decision we were talking about of the new RA, he thinks it's the right decision, but he's not sure it's the right decision. And he's kind of tripping over like, is that the right thing to do or not? And so I would say, yeah, I mean, he struggles with sometimes doubting himself and he's not so sure of himself all the time. But I do think that has evolved a bit over the last two seasons. So I think it's cool to see him changing. You know, I think as people, we're always growing and changing. And so it's really exciting to be able to play that kind of drawn out arc. And so, yeah.
Can you tease what that dynamic with Simon would be?
Yeah, I think that there's like a bit of a bromance happening there. I think like they become cool, you know, good friends. And you know, at first he's not sure if he's like the best person to bring in, and he's doubting himself. But then, you know, in on that first case, as we saw in episode two, Simon bails and he doesn't come in. And that causes a moment of panic, I think, for Rizwan of like, did I mess up? Did I not bring in the right person? But then Simon steps forward with some honesty and, you know, calls himself out and is just really upfront about it. And that kind of reaffirms that, like, okay, this is an honest guy. And, you know, we all get triggered, we all get scared. But, you know, if you're able to be honest about it, then that's kind of what matters the most. And so we'll have to see how Simon does for the rest of the season and if he ends up being a good fit or not. But I would say that so far, he seems to, you know, be finding his place in WIFA, which is kind of funny because that's kind of what Rizwan was doing last season, is kind of figuring out where he kind of stands with everyone. And now it's like I'm Phoebe and he's, you know, the new me and he's the new assistant and I'm head RA. So it's funny to see that dynamic echoed in season two.
Thank you so much for speaking to me. Exceptional as always, and I love the psychology behind
Yeah,
it.
thanks for talking. Yeah, great to talk to you.
Thank you.